If we take three of the most fundamental elements of Jesus' ethical teaching to be the idea that righteousness as a kind of internal transformation is the purpose of life, that all humans have a kind of fundamental dignity, and that our moral commitments are universal because all children are equally children of God, and we owe no particular kinds of commitments to those in our community or our ethnic group as opposed to those in other kinds of groups. If we take these three teachings as somehow fundamental to the ways that early Christians can think about justice, we can see why there are certain similarities with Stoic philosophy. Because Stoicism, too, as we've seen, teaches a certain kind of human dignity, it teaches a certain kind of righteousness as the end of life, and it teaches a certain kind of universalism. We've already encountered, when we talked about Cicero, one of the most important conduits for certain types of Stoic thinking into the Roman world, that the Stoics had a concept that all humans have a kind of moral worth. And this is something that we'll continue exploring in this and future lectures, in particular when we look at slavery and some of the implications of this kind of teaching. Cicero believes that there are two personae, that there's a kind of dignity that you have simply by virtue of being human, and there's a kind of dignity that you have that is tied to the specific human being that you are. We've seen that the Stoics have an idea of cosmopolitanism. That very Greek word says so much. To be a polites, to be a citizen of the cosmos, to be a citizen of the universe implies that somehow we are part of a collective that is on the scale of humanity, that we are part of maybe communities that are smaller, but fundamentally, humans are all part of a universal community. These Stoic ideas continue to develop and expand in the world of the high Roman Empire. We'll look at the teachings of the Stoic Seneca when we consider slavery in particular. But in the context of thinking about what is fundamental about Christianity, you should look at the teachings of two imperial Stoics writing in Greek in the 2nd century AD. Heracles, a philosopher whose writings survive only fragmentarily, and Marcus Aurelius, one of the most extraordinary Stoics because he wrote in Greek as a philosopher when in fact he was a Roman emperor whose native tongue was Latin. Heracles, in one of the fragments of his writing that does survive, offers an extraordinary vision of what the Stoics taught about the common humanity of all mankind. He says that an individual exists at the center of a ring of concentric circles, and that you naturally feel the most belonging to your individual self and care about what pertains to you. Beyond that, your family. Beyond that, your tribe or ethnic group. And beyond that, all of humanity. And so Heracles teaches that you exist in this concentric set of circles because you feel a certain kind of belonging, but that the most philosophical is to recognize the broadest circle of all of humanity, to recognize that you belong to the human race, which includes all of mankind. The Stoics, likewise, teach that the end of human life is virtue, that the purpose of life is to live virtuously. And in fact, the Stoics build out of a very ancient tradition which says that happiness is virtue, that the only way to achieve flourishing and happiness and well-being is through virtue. And it's an idea that goes back all the way through Socrates. And the Stoics believe that only the rational person who has learned to discount his own individual desires, who is completely indifferent to all of the externals of the world that affect him, but which he cannot control, will come to recognize that his duties in life are the supreme obligation that lie on him as an individual. And so Stoicism develops a kind of radical moral commitment that in some ways reminds us of Christianity. And it's certainly no accident that these two movements spread in the same Greco-Roman world, a world that is deeply concerned about the nature of the cosmos and the individual's place within it, and what it means for one's duties and one's obligations to justice. And similarities there are in the idea of a common humanity, a common dignity and a commitment to the moral life. But at the same time, are there differences between Stoicism and Christianity?